Today I'm going to talk about a project that is still ongoing with Professor Elbing and Professor Amaral from the Northwestern University in the US. So the Decoding Eurovision Song Contest, Learning and Irrational Behavior. Understand that Eurovision may seem a bit of a silly topic to cover, but I will try to change your mind. Okay, in the Eurovision Song Contest, it's a musical contest where the participating countries join the competition with one singer and one or two songs. Then there is a jury that decide which song is the best, and the winning country hosts the competition in the following year. The Eurovision Song Contest was created by this Italian guy, Sergio Pugliese, in 1956. And he has been inspired by the Festival di Sanremo, one of the first musical competition that is still running in Italy. Actually, it started yesterday, so you can see it. And in almost 70 years, 52 countries joined the competition with more than 1,700 songs in 55 different languages. Interestingly, Switzerland has won the first competition in 1956 with a song in French by Lys Assia entitled Refrain, and Switzerland has won also the last edition in 2024 with a song in English by Nemo entitled The Code. Fun fact, Switzerland has won also another competition in sorry, spoiler. In 1988, with a song in French by this singer, and at that time she was not famous. She was very young, and she was not even Swiss. But she joined the competition. Actually, she's Canadian, I think. Why she joined the competition? It's a very long story. And today I want to talk instead about how this Eurovision Song Contest evolved in about 70 years, and how we started from 7 countries and we came up with 37 different countries in the last year. Why this could be interesting. So we have the participants, so the countries and the singers that basically have the interest on winning the competition. Then we have the organizers that want to make a show that is interesting for the audience and to increase the number of viewers each year, because more viewers, it means more sponsors, more advertisements, and more money. The problem is that at some point the countries understood or tried to understand what songs are most liked by the audience. So at some point, all the songs started to be very, very similar. And at the end of the 90s, the interest of the public in the Eurovision Song Contest dropped a lot in just a few years. So the organizers thought that this was because the songs were too similar, and they decided to introduce many more countries, many more different cultures and languages, in order to make a competition that is more diverse and heterogeneous. So in the next 15 minutes, I will try to talk about the learning process of the countries, so the participants, and the learning process of the organizers, and how these two processes influence each other. We have found 3 different main phases during the 70 years of the Eurovision. The first one, we called it formation. So in the first 20 years, the rules and the participating countries were established, and the competition started to be important, but just in the participating countries. Then we have a consolidation phase where the rules didn't change. The number of participating countries slightly increased, and the European Song Contest became a huge phenomenon all over the world. For example, in 1980, 600 million of people watched the Eurovision Song Contest on television. Then, at the end of the 90s, the interest, as I said, dropped. And the organizers decided to include in the competition many more countries, also very far from Europe, for example, Azerbaijan, Armenia, or Egypt, Algeria, or even Australia joined the competition. And okay, here we have the number of participating countries for each edition. We can see that at the beginning of the expansion phase, the number of countries almost doubled. So now we'll try to understand if the inclusion of these new countries from all over the world helped the competition to be more diverse and heterogeneous. We started by analyzing the lyrics, the language of the lyrics. In the first 20 years, we had few countries, and almost the 60% of the songs were written in English, French, Italian, or German, and these languages are pretty equally distributed among the 60% of the songs. Then we have a consolidation phase when the Eurovision Song Contest was very, very popular. We have a slight increase in the number of participating countries, so obviously the percentage of songs written in these languages slightly decreased. And then the organizers introduced many more countries, so many more languages, and we would expect an even stronger decrease in the percentage of songs written in these languages. Instead, it happened the opposite. When the organizers introduced many more countries, basically all the countries started to write songs either in English or English plus another language. If we analyze the language of the songs for each country, here we have the countries that joined more Eurovision Song Contest in 70 years. During the consolidation phase, we can see that most of the countries used to sing in their own language, so German for Austria and Germany, Italian for Italy, Spanish for Spain, and so on. For example, for Switzerland, we have French, German, and Italian equally distributed. Then we have the expansion phase. Basically, all the countries started to write the songs in English, except for France, Italy, Portugal, and Spain. And as an Italian, I can say that this is because we love our language. For sure, it's not because we can't speak the English properly. Absolutely. Trust me. Okay, so the introduction of new countries didn't help to make a competition that is more diverse and heterogeneous. But we can study many more other aspects of the songs. For example, we studied what the songs are about, so what are the feelings promoted and expressed in the songs. We used GPT-4o for finding, for each song, one or more topics. Here we have the topics that are recurring most of the times in the 70 years of the competition. And now we can analyze the percentage of songs for each topic for each decade. Here we have aspiration, so the ambition of achieving something. We can see that it's a very important topic in all the decades. Basically, the 20–30% of the songs talk also about aspiration. For example, we have seen that nostalgia was the main topic in the 50s and 60s, and in the last 20 years, basically totally disappeared. Only the 8% of the songs are talking about somehow nostalgia nowadays. Then we have two topics about love, desire, and breakup. And we can see any pattern. We can say that these are evergreen topics. Then we have interesting topics related to sad or bad feelings. For example, mental or physical pain, rebellion, and desperation. We can see that at the beginning, no countries were talking about these topics, and now they became very, very important. For example, the 70% of the songs in the last years talks about mental or physical pain. So in this case, the introduction of new countries, it's been a good thing because now we have more topics and the topics are more equally distributed. Here we can see more clearly the patterns of this topic for each edition. We have the percentage of song containing these topics, and we can see that for some topics there are no patterns, and for others we have really strong patterns, for example, for pain or desperation or even for nostalgia. Okay, now we move to study the musical part of the songs. And first of all, we try to understand what are the musical genres of the Eurovision Song Contest songs. To do so, we used a deep learning model developed by Meta for the task of speech recognition. We fine-tuned this model using a data set of 1,000 different tracks labeled with one or multiple musical genres. And after only 24 epochs, we obtained pretty good results for labeling each song with one or more musical genres. To further improve the accuracy of the model, we grouped the musical genres into these three different groups. With folk, I don't mean American folk like Bob Dylan, but I mean typical songs in each country culture. And here we have the distribution of the musical genre for each period of the Eurovision Song Contest. We can see that in the first 20 years, most of the songs, the 50% of the songs were folk songs. During the consolidation period, we have the most balanced distribution of musical genres. And in the expansion phase, we can see that instead the 60% of the songs are pop. Then we studied also other aspects of the songs, other musical characteristics. To do so, we used the Spotify APIs that are very interesting, public accessible APIs for studying many features for each song. For example, the danceability of a song, the energy, the loudness, the acousticness, and many others. Spotify computes these features using only the audio track and not the lyrics of the songs. In this presentation, I focused on these four different musical features: acousticness, energy, danceability, and balance. I think that the names are pretty self-explanatory. Just balance, it's the musical positivity. So a song with a high valence, it means that it's more happy, basically. The problem is that we don't know how Spotify computes these features because obviously the models are not public. So we tested these features. We tried to see if these features are good enough for predicting the decade of publication of a song given its Spotify features. To do so, we tested 5 different classic machine learning classifiers. We tested them with a 10-fold cross-validation. Obviously, we optimized the hyperparameters. At the end, we have found that the best model is a support vector machine with an average F1 score of 0.45. It doesn't look too good, but we are trying to predict 7 different labels. So, for example, a totally random classifier would have an F1 score of only 0.17. Also, if we look at the confusion matrix, on the x-axis we have the predicted decade, and on the y-axis we have the real publication decade. We can see that most of the errors are along the diagonal. So most of the times when our model is wrong of only 1 or 2 decades. And also songs that are between 2 decades could have the features of both decades, obviously. Also, most of the errors are in the upper right part of the confusion matrix, and we can make the hypothesis that the songs of the last 2 decades are very similar, and it's more hard to distinguish this type of songs. Here we have the average score for each feature, for each edition of the Eurovision Song Contest. We can see that for energy and danceability, we have really strong increasing patterns. For acousticness, we have really strong decreasing patterns. For valence, it's more complicated. It's more an harmonic pattern. We can see that during the 80s and the beginning of the 2000s, those periods are the periods where we can find more positive songs, and it makes sense, I think. Obviously, some of these features strongly correlates with each other. For example, the positivity, the happiness of a song and danceability. Other features just don't correlate, and others have a negative correlation. So basically, to summarize what we have found, can we say that when there were fewer countries, the Eurovision Song Contest was more diverse and heterogeneous? If we analyze the language, I would say yes, because now, after the introduction of new countries, new cultures, basically all the countries started to write only English songs. If we analyze the topics, I would say that the situation is a bit better because now the music dance have changed, but some new topics have been introduced. For example, topics related to sad or bad feelings. But if we analyze the distribution of the musical genres, we can see that during the period of consolidation and formation, the musical genres were much more likely uniformly distributed. And it's the same if we analyze also the other musical characteristic we obtained using the Spotify API. So at the end of the 90s, we have seen a huge drop in interest on the Eurovision Song Contest. The organizers thought that this drop of interest was because the songs were too similar. So they decided to introduce many more countries, many more languages and cultures. And the idea was to make the Eurovision Song Contest more diverse and heterogeneous. Basically, they obtained the opposite because now the songs are much more similar to each other. They are all pop songs, only in English. But what about the number of viewers? Actually, the number of viewers has increased in the last 10 years. So basically, they obtained what they wanted, but not how they wanted. Thank you.